The current Indian cricket team can easily be compared with Bollywood's greatest hit Sholay. Just like the movie, it has such a stellar cast that even some of the greatest cricketers are forced to play supporting roles, ceding the limelight to the trio of Thakur, Viru and Gabbar. You can argue who among Rohit and Virat should be anointed Thakur and Viru, but because of his ability to steal a show and create mayhem, every time he appears on the screen, the Gabbar of this team is undoubtedly Bumrah. Welcome to The Proxy, a show where I, Manish Adhikari, read out a column or a text story published in India Today. This one is called Mohammed Shami, the Jai of Indian cricket's Sholay, overshadowed by Gabbar Bumrah. It's been written by Sandeepan Sharma. Back to the column. The aura of the top three is so bright that sometimes you feel for the other stars, especially Mohammed Shami. But for this cornucopia of superheroes, he would have been the greatest act of this team. But alas, his destiny is to live under the shadow of the triumvirate, a sideshow in this Marvel-like universe of Indian cricket. Go back to the Indian teams of the pre-Bumrah era. Recall the 70s and the 80s, where sometimes even Sunil Gavaskar was asked to share the new ball just to take the shine off it for the spinners to ply their trade later. Time travelled to the 90s and the 2000s when Javagal Srinath and Zahir Khan shared the burden of Indian pace bowling with trundlers like Manoj Prabhakar. Had Shami been part of any of these teams, he would have been a legend, a superstar whose face could have launched a million brands. But fame, like success, does not depend just on ability and effort. Like batting and acting, it is also at the mercy of timing. And so it is with Shami. Great bowler, but born in the wrong era. Removed from Bumrah's penumbra, Shami is a once-a-generation sensation, a rock star for the ages. And not just because he's the fastest Indian to 200 wickets in ODIs, he's a legend also because he has the rare ability to make history repeat itself, sometimes with unfortunate consequences. We all know that Shami was India's highest wicket taker in the 2023 World Cup, and that too after he was included late in the team. In the matches he played, Shami was a terror, making even the likes of Ben Stokes resemble bunnies with bats. It was later revealed that Shami played the World Cup in spite of an ankle injury that later required surgery and forced a long layoff. But that was not the first chapter of history Shami was writing. In the 2015 World Cup, Shami took 17 wickets for India, failing only in the semi-final against Australia. Deja vu? Here's one more fact to make 2015 look like a dress rehearsal for 2023. In 2015 too, Shami bowled with an injured knee. Once is happenstance, twice coincidence, and three times, well, if you're a 007 fan, it is Shami in action. So even the 2019 World Cup had the Shami imprimatur on history. In the 4 matches he played, after being benched for the first 4, he picked up 14 wickets. He took a hat-trick against Afghanistan, an effort that saved India, picked up a 5-wicket haul and scalped 4 West Indian batters. After that, he was dropped. In the 28 matches India has played in the last 3 World Cups, Shami has featured in only 18. Yet, he has taken 55 wickets in ODI World Cup so far, the highest by an Indian. He is the 5th highest wicket taker in the history of the World Cups. And yet, such has been this diamond's fate that he has never been forever. His career has been a stop-start-stop story that could have forced many others to take to coaching or commentary. A fool knows the cost of everything but the value of nothing. Fortunately, Shami knows the great value he brings to Indian cricket. So he has hung on tenaciously in spite of bizarre selection decisions and injuries. At 34, he has summoned, as he said in an interview, the tenacity and strength to literally learn to walk again. That he's going full tilt at the opposition at this age after so many injuries is a tribute to his stubborn desire to compete and excel. On the scale of comebacks, he's next only to Mohinder Amarnath, another undervalued star of the game. But why is Shami so undervalued? Why is he not in the same pantheon as Bumrah and the other superstars? One reason is that he makes bowling look very simple. His art doesn't conjure hidden mysteries, unsolved riddles or unbreakable spells, the kind which Bumrah often casts on the cricket pitch. He runs in, rolls his arm over, makes the ball skid off the surface. The seam almost always hits the deck first and the ball often swerves from its path, surprising the batter. Nothing to dissect, nothing to decode. Unfortunately, what does not mystify is sometimes boring. In the 1997 film Devil's Advocate, Al Pacino warns Keanu Reeves against being noticed. Don't ever let them see you coming, he says. Shami's problem is the exact opposite. He's somebody you rarely notice except when he's bowling. People do funny things to get noticed. Some, like the Aussie Greg Matthews, entertain the crowds to attract the camera. Some lift the middle finger frequently, and an unfortunate few resort to Mohammad Siraj brand of embarrassing aggro. But on the field, Shami is so low-key, so self-effacing that sometimes he melts into the crowd. Once off the pitch, he just vanishes. And as they say, the only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about at all. So Shami stays in the shadows, some of his own making and some cast by the giants in the team. He does it with a quiet dignity that reveals the depth of his character and a stillness that seems to have percolated his soul. Yet he makes Indian cricket the blockbuster it is. Come to think of it, if Bumrah were not the terror he is, he and Shami would have been the ideal Viru and Jay. You just heard a column written by Sandeepan Sharma, published on the India Today website on 21st February 2025. Please share the video if you liked it. Thanks for watching The Proxy with Manisha Adhikari.